Today, for our daily cancellation, I will be canceling all of the cancelers of the British pop star Adele. Adele is the latest white celebrity to get herself into trouble for the imaginary sin of cultural appropriation. Now, the singer posted a picture of herself sporting Bantu knots, which is a traditional African hairstyle featuring multiple buns or knots. Adele has presumably worn many hairstyles over the years. All of those styles have origins somewhere. It's doubtful that any of them originate in modern Britain. Is she supposed to check an encyclopedia every time she wants to put her hair up to ensure that she doesn't fashion it in a way that bears similarity to hairstyles worn by non-white people? Apparently so. Racial justice demands it. It's really not so much to ask when you think about it. So as cities burn and our country deals with multiple major crises at once, our friends on the left, still had time to worry about the way a woman across the ocean decided to fashion her hair. Ernest Owens, a self-described award-winning journalist and rich guy on the Forbes list, spoke out valiantly on this important issue. He said, if 2020 couldn't get any more bizarre, Adele is giving us Bantu knots and cultural appropriation that nobody asked for. This officially marks all of the top women in pop as problematic. Now, Owens, an alleged grown man, is himself appropriating from 19-year-old pink-haired gender studies majors by calling an utterly innocuous thing problematic. Also, I didn't realize that people had to ask for a certain hairstyle before we're allowed to wear it. Like, who should we ask before we wear? Are we supposed to be asking Ernest Owens every morning as you comb your hair? Just shoot a quick message to Owens, explain what style you're thinking of going with for the day, and wait for him to give you the go-ahead. I mean, he has to ask you to wear it before you're allowed to wear it. Other luminaries like Jameel Hill, last seen while claiming that the United States is analogous to Nazi Germany, you might remember that from last week, also swooped in to deliver a scolding to a woman who wore too many buns in her hair. I mean, I assume that is the problem here. It's too many buns, not the bun itself, because ancient Greeks wore buns. Yes, I actually did look this up. It's safe to assume even that many people in ancient times probably wore hairstyles that included multiple buns. So the age-old question, how many buns can Adele have before she becomes racist? What is the bun threshold? Now, I counted 9 visible buns. Yes, I did count. Would she be racist with just 5 buns? What about 6? And by the way, are we certain that the 9 or 10 bun style originates with African women? I mean, do we know that no other culture anywhere on earth ever thought of doing that many buns? These are questions that the appropriation police never answer. Can't answer. Left-wing bloggers also leapt into action, thankfully. A writer for the website The Root wrote a lengthy article on the issue of Adele's hair, and she lamented that the singer, would do something so callous as to put her hair in a bun, when Adele has been, says the writer, up to this point, among the least problematic faves of the Caucasian persuasion. Now, one might argue that labeling someone a least problematic fave of a certain race is far more racist than wearing too many buns in your hair. But what do I know? Rebecca Fishbein over at Jezebel proved that she's one of the good white people by joining the pile-on, quoting from an Instagram commenter. This is a comment from the person on Instagram. Apparently this is a good point. Black women are discriminated against for wearing cultural hairstyles like Bantu knots and locks, but white people are not. That's not fair, and that's why people are pissed off. But isn't Adele being discriminated against right now? Has any black woman ever been criticized in publications across the entire globe for wearing her hair in a bun? And even if some black women have been discriminated against for wearing the hairstyle, why exactly does that mean other people can't wear it? We're told that some people of one race are discriminated against for wearing something, and therefore people of another race shouldn't wear it. But we seem to have leapfrogged over a few of the steps in this logical progression because there's no apparent connection between the premise and the conclusion. And no one has ever tried to explain what the connection would be. The problem here, and the reason why the appropriation police can never quite explain what appropriation is and why it's wrong and why any of this matters, is that the whole concept is meaningless. I mean, you would think that the people who love to see everything as fluid and on a spectrum and a human construct would understand that culture is, by definition, the most fluid human construct of all. Culture is simply the customs, traditions, arts, and institutions of any group of people. And those customs, traditions, arts, and institutions are always evolving and changing. And they're in constant exchange with other cultures. In this era of global connectivity, that process is in hyperdrive. It happens quicker. and more efficiently. This is why, even if it made sense to accuse one culture of stealing, a style from another culture, which it doesn't, because theft deprives the victim of the thing being stolen, but nobody's being prevented from wearing buns just because Adele was wearing them. As if there's some sort of scarcity of buns and Adele is hogging more than her share. But even so, even if it made sense, we still couldn't identify who is actually guilty of stealing from whom. Humans have been making culture in some form or another for tens of thousands of years. For most trends and fashions, therefore, it's not possible to identify a definitive date or place of origin. Even if you could, what influenced the person who came up with it, and what influenced the influences of that person, and so on and so on and so on. This problem was illustrated recently when a white business owner in Seattle was forced to issue an apology for wearing dreadlocks, which supposedly appropriated from African culture too. But dreadlocks have been worn all throughout history by people of all different races and cultures and traditions. Vikings wore dreadlocks. Hindus still wear dreadlocks. Who owns them? Answer: nobody, because style is not a thing that can be owned. We might as well say that whoever first baked a loaf of bread now owns the concept of bread, and only the direct descendants of that person are allowed to experience its joys, which are considerable. Of course, I'm trying to engage with the concept of cultural appropriation honestly and logically, which means I'm missing the point. It is not supposed to make sense. It is simply supposed to be accepted and obeyed. It is just another means of controlling people and sowing division and discord in a society that I would say already has a surplus of both. And that is why Adele's cancelers are canceled, and everyone who uses the phrase cultural appropriation unironically is also canceled. Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative outlets in the entire country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and then subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.